Hello, hello, just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. I had this video planned, but I wasn't necessarily going to film it now because I don't know if you can tell because I've played around with my lighting, but it's quite dark now and I normally film with natural lighting, but I've boosted things with a light over here. I've changed the setting on my camera, so hopefully it's a bit brighter. I wish I'd done that before, to be perfectly honest. But I'm still learning. This is all a learning curve for me. I'm finding out tips and tricks and ways to use my camera and sometimes being annoyed with myself for not having realised things earlier. But anyway, I digress. What I wanted to film for you was a bit of a how do I feel about it now? I have been trying quite a few products lately and I thought it would be quite useful, especially as we're kind of at that halfway point of the year. I know a lot of people are doing ranking videos, and not that I won't ever necessarily do a ranking video, but I don't know that I've tried enough so far to warrant one, because I did only start my channel about 3 months ago. While I've perhaps tried a number of products, they're in different categories, so I don't really know how I would go about ranking them. I'm going to start with, what do I want to start with? I've got everything in front of me. I guess I should just go in the order. I'm starting with my curve case. I didn't necessarily do an exclusive video on my curve case, but I mean, I don't know how much you can see I'm dipping into it. I think you can see there that Shade and Laid, is it Shade and Laid? No, Blend and Snatch has got a considerable dent in it, and I think I've had this since maybe April, possibly May. But yeah, if I'm filming and I'm not reviewing a blush or a contour, this is what I'm using. And I will occasionally throw in a blush if I'm not using the curve case. This is a great all-in-one for blushes, like blush combinations, and then bronzing and contouring. And I'm still learning how to bronze and to contour. I'm still getting it wrong, but I think I've done an alright job today. I've just got a bit of a bronze around the top of my face and a little bit of contour. And I've used the blush today. I've combined, I want to say Cherry Cola and Cowlick are the two that I've combined on my cheeks today. I can see why this is a viral product. I can see why it kept selling out. 100% would recommend this, and it's always on sale in some form, either on TikTok Shop or via Beauty Bay. So yeah, if you can pick this up, I definitely recommend it. I'm umming and ahhing about getting deeper. There's a good chance I will pick up deeper because I've enjoyed this deep version so much. So yeah, wonderful product, definitely recommend that. The next thing I tried, which I did film, so this is one of the first reviews that I did on my channel, and it's the Byredo Mineralscapes palette, and that's what it looks like on the inside. And when I tell you I had to force myself to put this palette down, I'm going to, can I show you the outer packaging without it being, yeah, there we go. I mean, look at that. That's stunning for a start. And as I was saying, when I tell you I had to force myself to put this palette down because I had to remind myself, you have other palettes, put the Byredo Mineralscapes palette down. I have travelled with this, I had like a work thing where this was the palette I chose to take with me. I was able to get really lovely everyday looks, I was able to get like a beautiful blue evening-y type look. It's just an absolutely stunning palette, and honestly the versatility in here, like you can sneak peek of some of the products coming up, but the versatility in this palette and the things you can do with it is just, I'm gutted I've only discovered Byredo's bigger palettes now, but then I've looked at the previous ones and I wonder if it's the Kalahari. There's one of them which looks almost a bit monochromatic, and I don't know how much use you'd be able to get out of that one. And then the other colour story perhaps didn't speak to me as much as this one did. It's blues, it's purples, it's green. I think I was probably always going to love this, but the formula in this is like nothing I've ever experienced in a palette before. They're creamy, they're delicate, but you can build them up and they blend, and they are, I mean, they're just exquisite. I have to say, it's not a cheap palette, and there was a point where it was yo-yoing back and forth, being in and out of stock. I think it might be out of stock now. I'm not sure. It's I don't even know when it officially launched. That's another thing. I think there was an official launch date, but they had like a pre-release. But then I don't know if they released too many at the pre-release, because when it came to the actual release, it's as if they didn't have enough stock. But I don't know, it yo-yoed back and forth, being in and out of stock. If you can pick it up, if it does miraculously reappear, grab it. And again, it's one of those, I mean, I don't say that lightly, it's not a cheap palette, it's 100 quid, but it's just, it's beautiful. It really is. I mean, let me see if, I don't know if I can, even, I'm like, swatch, it feels like butter. It's just stunning. It really, really is. You swatch these. And I mean, I think it's only got, in fact, I don't think, I know it's only got 2 mattes in here. But that doesn't stop it from being, I mean, just a few quick swatches on the back of my hand here. But despite the fact that it's only got 2 mattes and the rest are all shimmers, they're varying degrees of shimmer, which I think makes it more versatile than it would be if it was your standard 2 mattes versus a 16 shimmer type palette. And I'm going to be looking out from about April next year, maybe even earlier, because I want to make sure it's on my radar. I want to see the colour story of the next big Byredo palette, and if it's a colour story that I think I'm going to enjoy, definitely picking it up. So I'll be saving my pennies ready for that next year, because these palettes from Byredo tend to be limited edition. But yeah, glad I've picked that one up. The next items I'm going to mention, I'll sort of talk about them together. It's the Made by Mitchell Truth Tint and the Balm Concealer. With the Truth Tint, I went back and forth over whether or not I picked up the right shade. But I think because of the formula and how light it is, I think you can get away with potentially a hair too dark, your shade, and a hair too light. I think you can kind of work around it. So I've been wearing this a lot. I've been deliberately wearing this when I'm filming as like my base, my go-to foundation. So while I'm filming, and also I've been trying to wear it when I've been going out as well. I've been trying to wear it on days when the sun has decided it wants to make an appearance, which is not often these days, and also just seeing how it holds up as a bit of an everyday foundation. It's very light coverage, which you can build up, but I found I don't like it when I build it up. I prefer this when I just go in with one layer and I use it in a way that it's just to kind of even out and cover up my sort of any sort of minor blemishes. I don't like it when you let it dry down and then you apply a bit more and let it dry down and you apply a bit more. Mitchell says you can use it that way, but I don't like how it starts to look on my skin when I do that. I'd rather just go in with a fuller coverage foundation if I want that effect. But for the Truth Tint, I think definitely it's best and it performs best and looks best when you just use one layer. As for the Bulk Balm, I got this, I should say that I got that in shade 16, and I don't know, I think I probably should have got 15, but 16 does work for me. Then the other item, which I'll talk about together with it, is the balm, so the Bulk Balm Concealer. And I know that these are designed to go together, and if you've got dry skin, this is a match made in heaven. Match made in heaven. But for me as an oilier person, I don't like these together. I mean, you can powder it down, but it's a lot of glow, it's a lot of dew, it's a lot of, do I want to say shine? well, yeah, on me it shine because I'm oily, so I have to be really careful. So when I'm using this, I like to use it with a drier concealer, and when I'm using this, the Bulk Balm, I like to use it with a drier foundation, and I think it helps to kind of balance them out. But together, I mean, one can have too much of a good thing, and I just end up looking too glowy to the point of an oil slick when I combine these two together. I mean, you can combat that with some powder, but I've just learned that my personal preference is they're better off separated. What is next? What is next? I couldn't find them all because basically they're dotted around in various different handbags. I'm trying to... But it's the She Glam lippies. I did a very quick video on these. I found 3 of them. I think I got 5 in total, which they're probably in various handbags dotted around. But I'm enjoying these. They're like a hint of colour, add a bit of hydration to your lips, cheap and cheerful. Yeah, I think they're not a must-have or anything like that, but they're quite nice to throw in your handbag and just get going. Next up, I mean, I'm not going to dwell on this, but next up, oh, this is a biggie. It's the Beauty Bay Smoky Palette. I mean, it's Beauty Bay. It's their standard 42 pan colour palette. You don't even need to explain when it comes to Beauty Bay. It's their standard quality, their standard high quality. The shadows performed really well. I think I've used this once or twice since. I'm trying to sort of go back, and I'm basically only featuring products in this video that I've used sort of at least 3 times, apart from something else that I'm going to mention a bit later, but at least 2 to 3 times, so I can decide how I really feel about it, because you get the initial impression when you do that first review, then you kind of reuse it and you start to think, you might think differently. So for example, you know, when I filmed with these two, I did really like how they look together, but you've got to bear in mind you're filming. I think I did do a check-in later, and I kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt because it had been a really hot day. I'd been out all day, I had sunscreen on underneath it, which you should have underneath your foundation at all times anyway. But I'd had it on for a really long time and I was a bit sweaty, so I gave it the benefit of the doubt. But when I used them again together, I was like, no, this isn't right. But through experimenting and using them more, that's how I've discovered I prefer them separately. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this this video, actually, because I thought it was a good idea. Sometimes your impression when you do an initial video and you're just seeing it in that moment can change when you use a product repeatedly. So I think it's good to do a bit of a check-in later. What came next? I think it was these Avatar palettes. While I haven't necessarily used each of these palettes more than sort of twice, I thought because I've used, it's the same formula in each, so I should hold them up so you can see them. So these are the 2 Avatar palettes that I picked up from the Lethal Cosmetics and the Last Airbender collection. While I think I've used each twice, it's the same formula, so I'm going to sort of lump them together. I really like the mattes in here. I think the mattes are beautiful, they blend really well, they've got good pigment, really enjoy them. The shimmers are hella chunky, like I'm still trying to figure out how to apply the shimmers in a way that you don't end up with an absolute waterfall of glitter under your eyes by the time you come to take your makeup off. I did do a bit of a sort of follow-up on Instagram, like an Instagram story. I don't know if I've still got the footage to insert, where I showed how much glitter had just landed underneath my eyes. So it might be that I just need to go in with a lighter hand. Maybe I need to apply a glitter glue so that it's got something more to adhere to. But that's my thinking at the moment. Like I think it's got potential. I think I just need to experiment a bit more with how to make it work for me. It didn't happen so much with this one. It definitely happened more with the Air palette. So I'm going to try again. I'm going to use a glitter primer, probably my NYX glitter primer, and just see if that helps. And I know as someone who wears contact lenses, who blinks a lot, that's probably a factor leading to more fallout and more collection of the shimmer particles by the end of the day. I don't have too many more items to run through. Oh, I almost forgot. While we're talking about... so I did try some liners. I need to revisit them. This, love it. I think this is probably my favourite thing from the collection. I'm not going to lie, it's the highlighter. I've got it on right now, along with some blush. But yeah, this highlighter, love it. Love it. I was worried that I wouldn't necessarily be able to use it every day. And maybe it's not an everyday highlighter, but I mean, the way I've used it today, I think complements my entire makeup look perfectly. But yeah, this highlighter, definitely recommend that. The palettes, I'll add them again to another what do I think about it now, but I've already made up my mind about this White Lotus highlighter. This is beautiful. I'm not even going to spend much time on this, but the Danessa Myricks Lightworks palette, loved it, love it. Loved it then, still love it now. Brilliant palette. Yeah, highly rate it. Opinion hasn't changed. Think it's stunning, definitely. Worth the splurge, I reckon. Worth the splurge. Now, something that I tried that was a little bit more disappointed with was the low lighters and what do you call it? Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder. I think that's what it's called. Low lighters first. I remember, so I liked this. I remember that when I used it, I didn't necessarily use them in the right way, but this is low key. I've used it since, and I've paired it with a pink blush, and I've used this as a topper, and that looks beautiful. That's a really, really nice combo. So I didn't rate these so much the first time I tried them, but since I've used them more, I appreciate them more, and I do like these. I think I said it at the time, they're not your in-your-face, seen from space highlighters. They're very, very subtle. If you're looking for a blinding highlighter, I mean, maybe the Avatar one is better for you, but it's called a low lighter for a reason, I would say. And then I've used Off the Grid as almost like a natural blush, like a glowy blush, and I found that that's the best way. That's the one I've enjoyed this the most, when I've used it as a glowy blush rather than in the position that you might use a highlighter. I've enjoyed that a lot more. Would I say you necessarily have to like run out and get them? But I mean, potentially not, but credit where credit's due. I probably didn't use them right the first time, and now that I've used them more and in slightly different ways, this is like a nice glowy blush, and low key is a really nice blush topper. And then yeah, I enjoy the this is Golden Hour, so this is the blush, and again, I mean, I think I like that well enough in the video, but I think because I've just been using my curve case and my blushes so much, those are like my top tier formulas for blush at the moment, so I don't think anything really stood a chance. So I definitely rate the Made by Mitchell curve case, like the formula in that and the blush formula, I rate that more than I rate this formula. That's just my personal opinion. Last but not least, and I'm sliding this one in here because I have actually used this quite a few times, which, considering I've only had it for a short amount of time, is testament to the palette itself. And the palette in question is Longing. This is another one I took down when I went to London. It was like my palette of choice, and the compliments that I got because of the shimmers in here, the people were commenting on the sparkle because it just, you couldn't help but notice because it just stood out, and it was a sunny day as well, and even though I had like my glasses on, you could almost see the sparkle through my glasses that tint in the sun. It's just, the mattes in here are just wow. I mean, I don't want to gush over this too much, I've got a whole review on it, but and I loved it in my review, and I've been using it since and still love it. Definitely recommend it. From what I'm hearing, this is like one of Blend Bunny's best. I have picked up some of their older palettes now that I'm still wanting to try, but I had wanted to try Longing first because it's their newer one. But yeah, loving this palette. I think it's absolutely gorgeous and highly recommend it. Beautiful. And I think that's it. Yeah, I just wanted to come back and sort of go over some products that I've tried, like since I started my channel, let you know if anything has changed. I think a lot of my original opinions do stand, especially when it comes to the eyeshadow palettes. I think sometimes for things like foundations and blushes you need to use them a bit more to get a better idea, but all in all it's been a pretty good year so far of products. I don't think there's been anything that I've tried that I thought was absolutely terrible. And you'll notice I've had that cut off. I haven't done the cool tools and the neutrals because I've just reviewed those. I haven't had the time yet to do additional looks with them, whereas Longing, I had that a little bit longer, so I have had time to do a few more looks with Longing. But all in all, there's been some outstanding products that have come out in the beginning of this year. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to come out in the second half of 2024. I hope you found this video useful. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch, and I hope to see you again in a video in the not too distant future. Take care. Bye bye.